Hello, everyone. My name is Brennan Marr. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator. And welcome to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. Today, I'm going to have the temerity, or audacity, to discuss the changes made to the Star Wars films over the years. The 1997 Special Edition, the 2004 DVD release, the 2011 Blu-ray release. Yes, it's a big topic. It's a hot topic. But it's one that I feel we should address. Now, I'm not going to tell you what you should think. Nor am I going to attempt to tell them what they should have done. I am merely going to give you my thoughts on the changes and whether or not I like them or don't like them. It's as simple as that. It's art. You can take it or leave it. Let's jump right in. So in the original film, one of the major changes, as we know in the 1997 Special Edition release, was adding new visual effects. Unfortunately, some of these visual effects have not aged well, but that's just because CGI from the late 90s, a lot of it didn't age particularly well anyway. So our first major change that we notice in the film is actually a change that I quite like, and that's with the Jawa Sandcrawler. After R2-D2 and C-3PO are captured by the Jawas, they are taken in the Sandcrawler across the desert. In the original film, we see the Sandcrawler, but from far away as it moves rather clunkily over the landscape. In the Special Edition, we actually see it move up close, and it looks great, and I think it looks perfectly fine. Then our next major changes are Mos Eisley Spaceport, which it's actually kind of nice when Obi-Wan and Luke are looking down, and Obi-Wan says, Mos Eisley Spaceport, You actually see some spaceships flying out of it that were added, and that looks kind of cool. It gives it more of a sense that it is a spaceport. As they get into the town, we see some CGI additions. Which some of it works and some of it doesn't. I do like the fact that they sort of expand the palette of Mos Eisley as the land speeder is going through the streets. The little bit with the Ronto carrying the Jawa that falls off because of the speeder, it's a little weird, but mostly because I just don't think the CGI works as well, just because, it's, by modern standards, not so good. At the time, it looked okay. Little physical comedy that's a little out of place, but whatever. Then, of course, we come to the big one. We see Greedo shooting at Han and missing, and then Han blows him away. This brings us to the Han shot first. Now let us be completely clear. In the original cut of the film, in the original theatrical edition, the edit is different. It's edited slightly differently. We go back and watch it. Between the old version and the newer versions, the edit is different. In the original, Han shoots without any preamble. In the newer versions, there's a shot put back in. It's a little bit hard to explain. You would have to actually go back and watch it. But what it comes down is to, it's not Han shot first, it's that Han shot. In the original edit of the film, he was the only one who shot. Because that split-second scene of Greedo shooting toward Han, that split-second shot wasn't even in the original cut. It was a scene that was, I think, removed from the original edit. So, now whether or not Greedo actually shot in the original edit of that, I doubt it. But yet again, like I said, it's complicated. Now, as for my feelings on that, well, I think Han shooting makes him much more of the kind of the rogue that we like. And I think it's a little bit more consistent with his character to have him shoot. And shoot without any preamble. Now, what you could interpret with the newer version of the scene, with Greedo shooting and missing, is that Jabba wanted to get rid of Greedo. So sent him because he knew Greedo was a terrible shot. And that he'd never be able to hit Han. But overall, I just don't think it's as consistent with the character. So I don't particularly like that change. Now, let's jump to the Jabba scene. A scene that was filmed originally with a human actor standing in for Jabba. That scene, of course, was cut. Now, not only do I not like this scene because the CGI on Jabba looks pretty bad, especially compared to him as a puppet, but artistically the scene is redundant. The scene establishes everything that we already learned in the scene with Greedo. And this was true, and I could see why it was cut from the original, because it's redundant. It tells us everything we already know. In fact, it even uses some of the same lines. About, dropped his cargo on the first sign of an Imperial cruiser, yada, yada, yada. So it's a redundant scene, and the CGI is not so good. The 2004 DVD release updated some of the CGI on Jabba, which made it look a little bit better. But yet again, artistically, the scene is redundant, so it doesn't really add much. And of course, in the DVD release, they added Boba Fett into those scenes for some reason. I mean, I know people think he's cool, but I don't get the big deal with him. But that's just me, and that's a discussion for another time. So jumping ahead, that's really the major ones. I mean, the only other major change is adding that exploding ring coming out of the Death Star when it blows up. And actually that works, because it adds to that. I don't know how scientifically sound that is, but let's face it, Star Wars isn't about scientific accuracy. There are a couple of new shots during the Battle of Yavin, but they're done pretty well, and you can't really tell that they're even added to begin with. So I really think that overall, the changes in A New Hope are all right, though I certainly, as I said, do not like the Jabba scene and Greedo making that terrible shot. Everything else, though, I'm willing to accept. And there's other minor changes, such as changing the lettering on the tractor beam control from English to the lettering in the Star Wars universe, Arabesh. And changes like that, which are perfectly fine. There's some minor changes to some of the edits. They've cleaned up the image. Overall, some pretty good stuff. And so overall, I'm okay with it. I don't particularly hate any of the additions. But yet again, the Jabba scene is probably my least favorite addition. And at least Jabba looks better now than he did when they first added him in 1997. Let's jump ahead to The Empire Strikes Back. The Empire Strikes Back has very few changes. We get to see more of the Wampa, which looks great. Because yet again, they didn't do it CG, it's a guy in a suit. Even for the special edition. And I've seen what the Wampa looked like originally and why they had to use a less is more approach in the original edit of the film. Because it looked so fake, it was ridiculous. So if you notice in the original cut of the movie, you barely see him. Because the suit looked pretty bad. And so they added that scene with another guy in the suit, which was great, because you get to see more of him. Though seeing him with his arm cut off is a little meh. It's a guy, for kids. So that's an okay addition. You get to Cloud City, and they've kind of added more windows, and the approach to Cloud City is more detailed. And we get some really nice shots of Cloud City. And honestly, they don't stand out too much. They look pretty good. And they kind of expand that world. But, I'm glad that, when some of the shots, which are so beautiful from the original, were not tampered with. And boy, am I glad about that. And then we probably come to the biggest change, which is the Emperor. Now, the scene where Darth Vader speaks to the Emperor on hologram, which actually comes before Cloud City, so I've gotten a little mixed up. I'm a little mixed up here. In the 1997 special edition, that scene remained the same, as it had always. With the original hologram of the Emperor, which looked very different from Ian McDiarmid. In the 2004 DVD release, they changed the hologram to be Ian McDiarmid as the Emperor, and some of the lines he says to Vader are different than they were in the original. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail, but it is implied, and maybe I'm reading the scene wrong, that the Emperor is informing Darth Vader, by the way, your son is that kid who blew up the Death Star, and his name is Luke Skywalker. Or his name is Skywalker, as if to say, hey, Darth Vader, I just found out that kid's your son. Now, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but that's a problem, because Vader already knows his name is Skywalker, because near the beginning of the movie, when the Empire is about to has gotten the probe droid report from Hoth. Vader says, and I'm sure Skywalker is with them. He already knows the kid's his son. He already knows that. So, I'm just going to assume that in the scene of the hologram, and the Emperor says, that kid is the son of Anakin Skywalker, and Vader's like, how is that possible? I think what Vader is basically saying, oh, this is the first time I've heard about that. Telling a big lie to his boss. Now, I was always confused as a kid, even in the original cut. Why is the Emperor telling Vader about Luke when Vader already knows about Luke? And I think the answer is, well, Vader's off on his own personal quest. He hasn't told his boss, oh, by the way, that kid's my son. So I think in both the change in the 2004 DVD release does not change the scene that much. Because in both scenes, Vader is lying through his teeth to his boss. Anyhow, that's yet again, these are minor details. Seeing Ian McDiarmid as the Emperor in the hologram looks okay. That's a nice addition, though he does look a bit rubbery, if you ask me. Maybe the makeup effects maybe weren't their best that day, but whatever. It's nice to establish Ian McDiarmid as the Emperor even further. Though I don't really see the reason why that scene needed to be changed, but whatever. And that's pretty much it. I mean, there is that bit in the 1997 edition, special edition, where when Luke falls and goes down the that chute in Cloud City, he like screams. It's a modified version of the Emperor scream when the Emperor falls. And then that was taken out in subsequent versions, and that's one of those editions that's like, okay, whatever. Didn't need to be there, but whatever. If it's there, big deal. And then, of course, we get a scene at the end of the Cloud City sequence that was not filmed at all for the original cut of the film, of Darth Vader boarding his shuttle and going back to his Star Destroyer. That's a completely new scene, filmed for the special edition. And that's actually a good addition because it's a missing part of the original cut. Missing in the sense that 1 minute Vader's on Cloud City, the next minute he's on his Star Destroyer. It's a nice transition. And that's pretty much the extent of the changes made to Empire Strikes Back. Very minor, and overall, I don't really have a problem with any of them. Then we come to Return of the Jedi. Now, Return of the Jedi has some of the bigger ones. Now, first off, the scene with adding a beak to the Sarlacc, that's okay. I mean, it's 90s CG. It doesn't look too bad. It makes it feel more alive. Yeah, true. But there was some degree of macabre mystery to just the gaping hole. It was kind of mysterious when it was just the hole with teeth. The beak does give it more life. It's true. And then, of course, we also get the shot of a herd of banthas, which is cool. I don't know why it needed to be there, but that's kind of cool, I guess. So all the scenes there in the beginning are pretty good. That's really only the major change in like the first, 2/3 of the film. Now, though there is one that I've just forgotten and now I remember. One of the more infamous changes. Changing the dance scene as Jabba's palace. Not only did they change the music, but they added new characters and added a CGI version of Sliced Noodles. Yeah. And I gotta say, it's awful. It's just awful. This is one of the changes I hate. I do not like the new song. The original song, Lefty Neck, was really catchy and really neat. But the new song, Jedi Rocks, sounds awful. And some of the CGI creatures look pretty awful, too. Though it does add a neat little shot of Boba Fett flirting with one of the dancer girls. But yeah, the song is awful. And the CGI dancers are awful. So that I hate. However, immediately after, there is a new scene of Ula after she falls down the Rancor pit, which they actually filmed for the special edition. 14 years later, even bringing back the original actress, who apparently had not aged at all, to get a reaction shot of her seeing the Rancor. Or of her being in the pit, knowing what's about to happen to her. And that's great. And I'm very glad nothing was changed about the Rancor. Other than giving it a nice digital cleanup so that you don't notice the compositing lines as much. Like when it picks up Luke in its hand. And in the original cut, you can tell that that's a composite shot. It's made less obvious with a nice digital cleanup. So yeah, the dance number is terrible. And then everything pretty much stays the same until we get to the very end of the movie. Yet again, there's an exploding ring coming out of the Death Star. That's an okay addition. As far as I can tell, nothing else was changed about the Battle of Endor. Because it was so good, it didn't need any changes. And I'm glad that it was left alone because it already looks fantastic. In fact, it's probably the greatest special effects sequence ever. There were some minor changes made to Anakin when we see him unmasked, such as the digital removal of his eyebrows. And I think digitally the color of his eyes was changed to match Hayden Christensen's eyes. Minor changes, no big deal. Then we come to the very end with the celebration. On Endor, new music. Now the Ewok song Yub Nub was pretty good. But I think in a way it lacked sort of the epic quality of the music that was added with the special edition, which was more heartfelt, beautiful, joyous, yet somber music. That gave you a feeling of we won, but it's got a melancholy feel. Bittersweet. Bittersweet is the right word to the new music that was added. It's beautiful yet emotional. And we also get some new scenes of people celebrating around the galaxy. celebrating on Cloud City, celebrating in Mos Eisley, celebrating on Coruscant, and in the DVD release, celebrating on Naboo, which is an okay addition too, I think. So that's kind of nice because it expands the palette. This isn't just one little victory. This is a victory for the whole galaxy. And then, of course, we come to probably the most controversial change in any of the original trilogy. The Force goes to Anakin Skywalker. In the 2001 DVD release, we got Hayden Christensen as the Force Ghost, replacing Sebastian Shaw. I do not like this change. I don't hate it, but I don't like it. And let me tell you why. I think the logic of it is a little screwy. If the ghost of Anakin is supposed to be who Anakin was before, as a good person, it should be what he looked like at the end of his life. Because he became a good person at the very end of his life. Therefore, the logic that his ghost reflects who he was when he was good, at least in my mind, should be him at the end of his life because he became good at the end of his life. That's my thinking. And the second reason is the look. Sebastian Shaw, who played the unmasked Vader, appearing as a Force Ghost, had such a loving, kind face, and his smile was just so warm. And just the emotion there. He brought it just with a look. The version, or the look of Hayden, and I'm not saying that it's Hayden Christensen's fault, I'm just saying that I think the look on his face was not as beautiful, was not as warm and inviting and joyous. It's more of a smirk, and I just don't think that works, given the emotion of the scene. So, yet again, not a change that I particularly enjoy. And that brings us pretty much to the end. Now, the nice digital cleanups and things like that, great, wonderful. Some of the changes, I think, really improve the movie. Others, I think, really detract. There's really only one change that I can say I hate. And that is the dance scene in Jabba's palace. Everything else I accept, and I'm fine with. Now, I happen to have the 2006 limited edition DVD release, which has of each movie in the trilogy on disc 1, the 2004 DVD version, and on disc 2, the unaltered original versions. Unfortunately, the unaltered original versions have not been given a nice digital cleanup. So they look kind of bad. But nonetheless, I'm glad I have them because it means that I can watch the original versions of the film. Now let's be clear, minor changes have been made throughout the years to the original movies. Even before the 1997 special edition release, there were changes to the sound mix in 1981 for the re-release of Star Wars. The subtitle, Episode 4, A New Hope, was added. Yes, Empire Strikes Back was actually the first Star Wars movie to have an episode number. And then then Star Wars was retroactively given a subtitle for its 1981 re-release. Theatrical re-release, which was common at the time. So changes have been made throughout the years, but the most drastic changes, of course, were made in 1997. But I think that overall, the cinematic legacy of Star Wars remains, and even these changes cannot take away from how good these movies are. So my name is Brendan Marr. Those are my thoughts on the changes to Star Wars. Thank you so much for tuning in. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator. And thank you for tuning in to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.